the siding, because I sure as heck am not going to be able to do it. Okay, and going back even further, you need somebody to make the bricks, somebody else to lay the bricks, somebody to chop down the trees for the wood for the frame, somebody to mine the copper for the wires. And nobody's doing this because they're saying, hey, I really want to build Mr. Smith's house. And so out of the goodness of my heart, I'm going to spend all this time in a copper mine, or I'm going to spend all this time firing bricks so that Mr. Smith can have a house. They're not going to do that, okay? We have to make it worth their while. I have to give them something of value to get them to do that for me. So, for example, that something of value to me, to them might be, okay, I can teach your kid economics, right? That's one thing I can do. But what if you don't have any kids? Or what if you've got somebody else who's going to teach your kid economics? I can announce your kids' sporting events. Great. What if you don't have any kids? What if your kids don't play sports? I don't have anything of value to give you, right? So what I can do is teach some other person's kid economics, and that person might give me, say, a dozen eggs, right? Well, maybe I'll give you that dozen eggs to, or a couple dozen eggs to put up the frame for my house. Okay, but here's the problem. What if you're a vegan? Eggs spoil. Eggs break pretty easily. Maybe that's not the best thing. Okay, so we've got to do something else then to make it worth their while, to make it so that those people are willing to, say, build my house, or provide food for my family, or provide the seed so I can grow the food, whatever it is. And so that's how money began, and so, we kind of look at, okay, is a sports car money? Money is something that has value. Well, sports cars have value, therefore are sports cars money? Not necessarily, right? Are theater tickets money? Not necessarily, and the reason why is we all value those things differently. And they also don't hold their value over time. Theater tickets are worthless once the performance has happened. A sports car loses value every time you turn the key in the ignition and drive it. So even though it has value, it doesn't maintain its value over time. So therefore, it cannot be money. Okay. So, before the performance, a theater ticket or a sporting event ticket is really, really important. Because it allows you to witness that performance. That has lots of value. It can be bought or sold pretty easily, and sometimes for more money than the ticket originally sold for. Once the performance has happened, it's a 3-cent piece of cardboard. And that's it. So, kind of understand that, so those things, even though they have value, cannot be money. So, so let's kind of go back to the original idea here, and that is how money originated. Go back to the original idea. My son, hey, we've got to give people something of value to get them to build our house, to get them to grow food for us. So, so what happens? Okay. Let's say we've got a very simple community where there's a farmer, a jeweler, and a blacksmith, or an ironsmith. Okay. The farmer and the ironsmith need food. The farmer obviously has food. Now, here's the problem. Okay. The farmer has no need for jewelry. Okay. So the jeweler goes to the farmer and says, hey, look, I can make you a necklace. I can make you some rings in exchange for food, because I've got to feed my family. The farmer says, I don't need a necklace. I don't need rings. I don't wear jewelry, and I am not married, so I don't really need to purchase presents for my spouse. obtain presents for my spouse. So what happens? How is the jeweler going to be able to eat if he has nothing to trade with the farmer? Well, remember, our third person here is the ironsmith. So the jeweler goes to the ironsmith and says, hey, look, I need to be able to defend my property. Why don't I make you 5 necklaces and 3 rings, all of gold and silver, in exchange for 25 musket balls? Okay, and what I can do is I can use those musket balls to, put in my weapons and go hunt so I can have food, but also so I can defend my property. Now, here's the thing. The farmer also needs to defend his property. So yes, he may trade food for musket balls with the ironsmith as well, but the jeweler now can take those musket balls to the farmer and say, hey, look, how about you give me 10, 100 ears of corn for 10 of my 25 musket balls? And the farmer says, deal. Okay. The musket balls have basically become money. Okay. Because they can be used to trade to obtain other things. And that is how money developed. Okay. Money then kind of switched over time to become gold and silver because they were easier, and everybody kind of began to, know how much it was worth. It could be easily weighed. And the nice thing about gold and silver is that it's fairly rare, and that it can be used to, it can be easily weighed, and it can be used in other applications. So, so money started out as barter, but money itself is not necessarily something that we just have that is just a creation of the government. Money is something that evolved from exchange, because the reality is that what I may have to give you may not necessarily be what you want. But the key thing is to get you to do something for me. Okay, for me to obtain what I want and need, for me to get a house, for me to get a car, for me to be able to eat and get food, I have to give things that are of value to get you to get you to build me a house, to get you to build and sell me a car, to get you to grow food for me. And on the flip side, you've got to give something that is of value to me for me to teach you economics. And at the base level, this is how an economy works, okay? Money really does not have value in and of itself. Money simply is a tool that allows us to obtain the things that are of value to us. And the key thing to understand is money is universally accepted for the most part. And as a result, can be the thing that we want, can be the thing that allows us to obtain our wants and needs and fulfill our wants and needs. Money in and of itself is not really an end. Money is just a means to obtain the ends that we want that make our lives better. So essentially, money at its base level is just a tool used to exchange for goods and services. Money does not, again, have value in and of itself. Its value is in what that money can obtain for us. So if we just give everybody $10,000, that doesn't mean everybody is going to be able to obtain that amount more. That doesn't just mean everybody's richer. Everybody becomes richer when they obtain $10,000 more in goods and services. However, if we give everybody $10,000, they're not going to be able to obtain as many goods and services as they think they are, because what's going to happen? They're going to, we're going to spend that money, right? Or we're going to save it. And when we save it, we put it in the banking system so that other people can spend it because it gets loaned out. We'll talk about that later in the week. So what happens is that you have, at any given point in time, a fixed amount of goods and services. So if we just give everybody $10,000, well, guess what happens? more money chasing after that same amount of goods and services pushes prices up because it makes those goods and services more scarce. And as a result, that pushes prices up. It causes inflation. And because of that, then you're not able to buy as many goods and services as you think you are. Instead, we see prices go up. Okay. And if we go back to the old, aggregate supply and demand graph, that's the relationship between quantity demand and aggregate demand and inflation. That when when we put more money into circulation, basically what happens is that the price level goes up. Okay, remember that your vertical axis is the price level and your horizontal axis is economic growth or real GDP. So put more money into circulation, yes, you increase aggregate demand, but at the cost of inflation. Okay, so, and we'll be looking at that later on in the week as well. So money is a tool that is used to exchange for goods and services. Money, to be money, has to have three functions. Okay, number one, it has to be a medium of exchange, which means it is widely accepted as payment for goods and services. Okay, so I may not, be able to teach everybody economics if we had to haggle and barter for the exchange, because what if 5 of your parents are accountants? So the first person comes and says, I'll do your taxes. And boy, I can't imagine accounting with no money, but I'll do your taxes if you teach my kid economics. Sure. Then the next person, I'll do your taxes. Wait. I've already got somebody doing my taxes, right? I don't need a second person doing my taxes. So you're out of luck, right? Because I only need one person to do my taxes. If 5 of you are chicken farmers and you each decide to trade 2 dozen eggs a week in exchange for me to teach you economics, okay, I've got a use for 2 dozen eggs a week. I don't have a use for 10 dozen eggs. I mean, I can't eat that many cakes and cookies and scrambled eggs, even if every person in my family eats a 2-egg omelet every day. Okay, that's 7 times 8, that's 56 eggs. I've still got another 60 that we still haven't used. So needless to say, I may only need 3 or 4 chicken farmers, but not 2 or 3 chicken farmers to trade me 2 dozen eggs, but not 5, right? So the key thing to understand is that money is a universally accepted medium of exchange, whereas barter, what you have may not be what I need. And so therefore, we may not be able to exchange. But the nice thing is that as a chicken farmer, what you can do is you can grow eggs, you can raise chickens and they lay eggs, and you can sell those eggs to, say, the grocery store. And they will give you money in exchange for that. And then I could go to the grocery store and I can give them money and I can buy eggs. Or I can just buy the eggs directly from you as well and just give you money. And you can, obviously, I'm paid for by tax money, but let's just take the government out of the equation here. You could pay me money. You could sell those eggs to the grocery store or sell those eggs to other people and then give me money to teach you economics. Okay. So money is a medium of exchange. It's widely accepted. And that's how money functions, is that instead of trading things directly, what we do is we trade things for money. I trade my time teaching economics for money, and then I can use that money to buy the things that your parents provide, those who, provide what I need. And other people can use their money to pay your parents to provide the things that they need. Okay, so money is a medium of exchange. It's widely accepted as payment for goods and services. Money is also a measure of value, or what we call a unit of account. Okay, and what we mean by that is that its value is understood by both parties. In other words, we all kind of agree on how much that money can buy. And again, money's value isn't in being money, it's in the goods and services it can buy. So we all, for the most part, at this point in time, agree that a dollar bill can buy you about half of a gallon of gas. Right? A dollar bill can buy you one newspaper. A dollar bill can maybe buy you a candy bar on sale. A dollar bill can buy you a cup of coffee or a drink at McDonald's, okay, or a cup of coffee at the gas station. We all kind of know roughly what a dollar bill can buy, okay? So as a result, it's a measure of value. We all kind of agree on what things are worth. We may not all be able to agree on what a dozen eggs are worth. We may not all be able to agree on what theater tickets are worth. You give me 2 tickets to Hamilton, I'm like, okay, I don't really do musicals, and I especially don't do musicals that take history and twist it into a pretzel. And so, that would probably not be my thing. It's just not what I'm interested in. And it's okay, right? We all have our own interests. Some of you gave 2 tickets to Hamilton. Those things would be worth hundreds of dollars to you. They would be worth practically nothing to me because I would, other than what I could probably turn around and sell them for, right? So, those things have different values to each of us. You give me 2 hockey tickets, absolutely, that has a lot more value to me than it probably would be to some of you, okay? So, we don't necessarily agree on what those are worth. And however, $100, we all kind of agree on what that's worth. And what it's worth is really, we all agree on how much $100 can buy. Okay. So that makes it a unit of account or a measure of value. I like the term measure of value, but the book uses unit of account. The third thing is it is a store of value, that it is saved and maintain its value over time. That's why theater and hockey tickets are not money, because once the performance of the game happens, they're worthless. Okay. Whereas money, eggs can't be money because they spoil, they go bad. So the thing about money is that it can be saved and maintain its value over time. I've got 2 kids. One's in middle school, one's in elementary school. By the end of this decade, one will be out of college and the other will be in college. Okay. So I know that I have to put those 2 children through college. Well, to do that, I need to save up money. And so the money I'm setting aside in my kids' college accounts, I have to know that in, 5 years, it's going to be worth something. And so this is why inflation is a problem, because it eats away at the value of your money and makes it less of a store of value. So to be money, it has to be a medium of exchange, a unit account, and a store of value. Notice what word is not here. Government. Money does not have to be issued by a government to be money. Okay? Governments issue money in part because of legal tender laws, and in part because they have the ability to, in the past, had the ability to amass and protect the amount of gold and silver needed to produce a money supply. But you don't necessarily need to have a government to have money. Okay. We have generally accepted that government issued money is money, but gold and silver coins that were long accepted as money did not have to be minted by a government to be money. They just had to be gold and silver and a certain weight of gold and silver to be money. Okay, they didn't have to be issued by a government. As long as it was a medium of exchange, a unit account, store of value, it's money. In Canada, for example, they've got this store called Canadian Tire. It's basically Walmart. Okay, it's one of those things. It is in every small town, and while it's called Canadian Tire, they sell much more than tires and auto stuff. I mean, it's the general store in town. It's kind of it's kind of Dollar General meets Walmart sort of thing. Canadian Tire has a rewards program called Canadian Tire Money, where they'll give out gift certificates essentially to Canadian Tire that are, redeemable for say $5 or $10. They look like money. They're not necessarily, they're not issued by a government. They're only redeemable at Canadian Tire stores because they're essentially gift certificates. But Canadian Tire stores are so ubiquitous in Canada. They're everywhere, and a lot of people shop there, that a lot of merchants will accept Canadian Tire money as cash. So you can pay them in Canadian Tire money as well, because they can then go to these stores and use them as if they were cash. And so they have kind of become a second currency in a lot of Canadian communities. Okay. Is it money? Well, medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value. As long as people are willing to accept it, one could argue that those little gift certificates are actually money, because more merchants than just Canadian Tire stores accept them. Okay. To be money, it also has to have 4 properties. It has to be portable. You have to be able to easily carry it, which is kind of one reason why musket balls and some of the other things that have served as money in the past, beads, salt, gunpowder, corn, could not really function very well as money because they're not very portable. It's got to be durable. It's got to be something that's going to maintain its value over time. It has to be divisible, which means it's easy to combine and divide. Okay, and when we say divisible, our money obviously can be divided down to the penny that is practically worthless, and you put 5 pennies together and you have 5 cents, which also can be a nickel. I can have a dollar bill, or I can have $10 bills, or I can have a $10 bill. And, I can trade $10 bills for one $10 bill and still have the same amount of money, right? It's divisible and combinable. The most important thing is that money is scarce. Money has to be scarce to be money, okay? Which means it has to be in limited supply. Now, until 1933, and then in terms of foreign trade to 1971, in the United States, the scarcity of our money supply was determined by the amount of gold and silver that were in the government's vaults. Okay. Up until 1933, when FDR kind of took us off the gold standard, the amount of money the United States government could issue was limited by the amount of gold and silver that the United States government owned and likely, had stored at Fort Knox, among other places. So, if there were $100 million worth of gold in Fort Knox, we could issue $100 million worth of dollar bills. And not only that, but you could go to the bank and you could trade a dollar bill for a gold coin or a silver coin. And the dollar bills actually said gold certificate, silver certificate. It showed that money was backed by gold and silver. And we call that, representative money, because that money represented an amount of gold and silver. Since 1971, the United States and all other countries are in a system of what we call fiat money. And what that means is that it is money by government decree. It is money that is accepted because it is law that you have to accept the money, and not necessarily because it has tangible value. Our dollar bills are just paper, okay? And so what gives a $10 bill more value than a $1 bill isn't the value of the paper, because the paper that a $10 bill and a paper and a $1 bill are printed on are pretty much identical. What gives it value is the fact that we accept a $10 bill to buy 10 times as more stuff as a $1 bill. So fiat money is accepted by law. And so the only thing that is keeping our money supply scarce is essentially the good name of the United States and the amount of money the Federal Reserve will allow into circulation, okay? And so we also have representative money, which is money backed by gold and silver. Commodity money is any money that serves as money while having market value based on the material from which it's made, like gold or silver coins. Okay. So the money supply in the United States is actually made up of 3 things. One of them is the money base, which is essentially the amount of dollar bills plus coins that are out there. So, but there's 2 other measurements that we commonly use. One of them is M1, okay? And M1 is the purchasing power that is immediately available to the public, okay? It is currency plus checkable deposits, okay, plus traveler's checks. So when we say checkable deposits, that's checking accounts. That is money that is immediately available, okay? And here is the graph of M1 since 1975. Okay. 1975, our money supply, our M1 money supply, which is currency immediately available to the public, was about $273 billion. Okay. Today, as of November 23rd, which is the most recent date we have, it is $6,231.3 billion, or $6.2 trillion. Okay, so this is the amount of money that exists in cash, as well as in checking accounts and traveler's checks, because all of those can essentially be turned into cash right away. Now, here's the thing that's a little bit alarming, is that in January, that number was below 4 trillion. Today, it is above 6 trillion. So what we have seen is dramatic growth in the money supply, in the M1, the immediately available money supply, in the last 10 months. Okay. And just for frame of reference, we've had as much money created in the last 10 months as we had in the previous 9 years. Prior to that, it took about 20 years to get from $1 trillion of money supply, M1 money supply, to 2 trillion. It took another 9 years to get from 2 trillion to 4 trillion. And it took about 10 months to get from 4 trillion to 6 trillion. Now, why is that alarming? Okay, we got a larger money supply. It means more money, right? More money, people are going to be richer. Not necessarily. More money means more inflation. That also means prices go up. And we have not seen that because a lot of this money, this increase in the money supply has been to kind of cover over the fact that we have a lot of businesses shut down and a lot of economic activity has been slowed due to COVID restrictions and people just not willing to go out. Now, M2 is not just that money immediately available, currency and coins and checking accounts. M2 is also, we add in savings accounts, okay, plus money market accounts, plus what we refer to as small time deposits, like certificate of deposits that are for short-term periods. So this is money that is not necessarily immediately available, but could be available within a short amount of time. So it's all of this $6 trillion in M1, plus money in savings accounts and short time deposits like certificates of deposit. Now, you'll notice that the jump here has not been quite as alarming. We've gone from 15 trillion to 19 trillion, okay? So the amount of money that we have in circulation, once you take into account, money that could be made fairly easily available through savings accounts and small time deposits, is about 19 trillion, which is about 3 times the amount of currency plus savings account money, or checking account money, the M1. And so, and you'll notice here, we have jumped from about 15 trillion in February to about 19 trillion today. Now, why is this important? Okay. I'm going to just take a look at the consumer price index, and I'm going to make sure it works fairly even with this graph. Okay. So here is the money supply. Okay. And you'll kind of notice there's a pretty steady upward trajectory here. And then this huge jump in 2020. Here is the inflation rate, or the price level here. Once my computer will let me open it up here. Here is the inflation rate, or the price level. Okay. Do you notice a pretty strong correlation? Now, the one thing we'll see is prices generally dip a little bit during recessions, and we've seen that here. But have you noticed, do you notice here, and this would be skewed a little bit less if 2020 weren't an issue, but you notice a general upward trend in the money supply and a general upward trend in the price level. Okay, the inflation rate of the price level over the same period of years. Okay, generally an increase in the money supply equals an increase in prices. So that is a really important thing to understand. So that's the basic idea behind money. Again, it needs to be a medium of exchange, which means that it is something that everybody's willing to accept. It's got to be a unit of account or a measure of value. Everybody kind of knows what it's worth. It's got to be a store of value. It's got to maintain its value over time. And so that's why inflation is generally a bad thing, because it eats away at the value of money over time. It also has to be portable, durable, divisible, and scarce to be money. It does not necessarily have to be issued by a government to be money.